It started with a subtle shift in the lobby's atmosphere. A client was mid-sentence when the air changed, electric, tense, even before the double doors slammed open. Something told me that chaos was coming. And then it happened. The heavy lobby doors burst open with such violence that heads turned in unison. Standing in the entrance, like she was making a grand stage entrance, was Karen Miller, president of our neighborhood HOA and terror of both the block and the office. Her expression wasn't just angry, it was triumphant, like she'd been waiting for this moment all her life. She stormed across the polished marble floor in her designer heels, a manicured finger raised and pointed squarely at me. My clients looked around, confused, whispering to one another. "You're fired, effective immediately," she declared, her voice echoing so loudly across the lobby that even the building manager at the front desk flinched. "Pack your things and get out of my building within the hour." The heat flushed into my face. I could feel every pair of eyes on me, clients, employees, even the coffee vendor paused. My clients shifted in their seats uncomfortably. Despite the mortifying spectacle, I stayed calm. Karen stood there like a victorious villain, arms crossed, a smirk blooming across her lips, gloating in my public embarrassment. But she didn't know the truth. She had no idea what was already in motion behind the scenes, truth that gave me the strength to straighten my spine and meet her stare with no trace of panic. I nodded once and replied, "I think there's been a misunderstanding, Karen." Her expression twisted. "The only misunderstanding is that you thought you could stay employed here after your pathetic performance," she hissed. "Now get out before I call security." 6 weeks earlier, I was just another modest financial advisor. Nothing flashy, but I liked the work, helping clients manage their investments and plan for retirement. It was fulfilling. The office wasn't high-end, but it was steady. The only downside? Karen. Not only was she president of the HOA in the neighborhood where we both lived, but she also managed the office building. That meant she had a double grip of power over my life. Karen thrived on micromanagement. She'd dictate the exact thermostat settings, assign arbitrary parking spaces, and send out policy memos like she was running the Pentagon. If you stepped out of line, questioned her decisions, or so much as rolled your eyes, you'd get slapped with an office write-up or, worse, come home to an HOA violation taped to your door. I'd seen great coworkers quit just to escape her madness. But I stayed because something had changed. 2 months ago, my uncle passed away. He left behind a significant inheritance, enough to start fresh. I didn't buy a car or move away. I made a choice. I would invest in something permanent. When I found out the very building where I worked was for sale, it felt like fate. Quietly, I formed a holding company to keep my identity private and made an offer. It was accepted almost immediately. The closing was set for the following week, and I told no one. I continued coming to work every day, just as usual. Karen's behavior only got worse. She began sending daily etiquette reminders and installed cameras pointed directly at employee desks. She pushed new HOA rules, regulations so petty they bordered on cruel. A neighbor of mine, Mrs. Peterson, a 70-year-old widow, broke into tears over a $500 fine for planting the wrong type of flowers in her front yard. That was the moment I knew Karen needed to be stopped. Just last week, she had stopped me in the break room, stabbing her finger at me for letting clients use the front entrance. "This isn't some low-rent operation," she spat. "Maybe if you had any professionalism, you wouldn't be stuck in that tiny little office." I had smiled and nodded, like always, but she had no idea I'd just signed the final building documents that morning. As of 9 a.m. that very day, I was the new owner of the building. Now, here she was, trying to publicly destroy me. I calmly collected my files and stood up. "Sorry for the disturbance," I told my clients. "Shall we reschedule for tomorrow?" They nodded awkwardly and left. Karen stepped closer, her voice low and cruel. "I've been waiting to do that for months. You have no drive, no vision. People like you are placeholders. People like me step over you on their way up. I didn't flinch. You might be surprised, Karen. Then I walked toward the exit, pulled out my phone, and made sure she heard me. Hey, James. Yes, everything went through. The building is officially mine as of this morning. Could you prepare the new management notices for distribution tomorrow? Thanks. I ended the call and glanced back. Karen's face had frozen, her mouth slightly open. I left her standing there, speechless. The next morning, I arrived early with my new property management team. We posted notices across every floor, effective immediately. Smith Properties is now the owner of Oakwood Professional Center. All inquiries should be directed to David Williams, building manager. At 9 a.m. sharp, I was seated in the surveillance room, watching the new monitors. Karen approached the front doors, swiped her access card, red light. She tried again, still locked. Then came the inevitable pounding on the glass. A guard came to speak with her, pointing at the notice. She read it, her face twisted. David opened the door and welcomed her inside, trying to calmly explain the situation. She ignored him and rushed to her office, but when she turned the doorknob, it didn't budge. The locks had been changed. By then, a small crowd of employees had gathered to witness the drama. "Where is he?" she yelled, spinning around to face them. "Where is that little nobody who thinks he can play games with me?" I stepped forward, stepping off the elevator. "Good morning, Karen. I believe David already explained the change in management." She laughed, but there was panic behind it. You bought this building? You drive a 10-year-old Honda. "I believe in living below my means," I said. "But that's irrelevant. Smith Properties is my holding company. I purchased the building last week. The transfer became official yesterday morning, about an hour before you tried to fire me." Her face drained of color. "This is a joke. You can't do this. I've run this building for 7 years. I'll sue you for wrongful termination." "You can contact my legal team," I said, handing her a card. "We've already compiled documentation about your management practices, including staff complaints and security footage." She stood there, shaking with rage. "Effective immediately, your position has been terminated. Please vacate the premises. Your belongings will be packed and delivered." She lost control. She began screaming, calling everyone useless, swearing, and knocking over chairs. She grabbed a potted plant and hurled it across the lobby. It nearly struck an elderly client walking in. Then she lunged at the front desk and shoved the receptionist's computer off the counter. "This is my building," she shrieked. "You're all fired, every single one of you." David called security. I stepped in, trying to de-escalate. "Karen, please stop. You're only making things worse." She spun on me, eyes wild. "You think you've won? I'm still HOA president. I'll fine you for every weed in your yard. I'll make your life hell." When security arrived and tried to guide her out, she slapped one of the guards across the face. That was it. David called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived and attempted to calm her down. She barricaded herself behind the desk, yelling threats. When she tried to shove past them to get to me, they had to physically restrain her. She was handcuffed and informed she was being arrested for destruction of property, disorderly conduct, assault, and trespassing. The building fell silent as she was dragged out, still shouting and struggling. The following week, she appeared in court. She was charged with 3 misdemeanors. The judge, clearly unimpressed with her excuses, sentenced her to 100 hours of community service, ordered her to pay $7,000 in damages, and issued a restraining order. She couldn't come within 100 feet of the building or contact any employee. And then came the final blow. The HOA board held an emergency meeting. With her arrest footage circulating among neighbors, the board voted unanimously to remove her as president. When they gave her the news, she sat down slowly, her face blank, her mouth opening and closing without words. For the first time since I'd met her, Karen Miller had nothing to say. If you love seeing karma catch up to a real-life villain, make sure to hit that like button, it really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping workplace and neighborhood drama. New stories drop every week, and you won't want to miss the next one.